Americans will say, what do you want to do tonight? Oh, let's do Italian. Let's do Mexican. Let's do Chinese. Let's do Thai. That kind of, do Mexicans do that or no?
Not any Mexican I know. No, like they'll have a steak, but no, Thai Mexicans, no, they won't do that. They don't even know what that is. Well, I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't want to. I don't want to. The ones that I know, they don't venture out. Their palate won't venture out as far as that.
Right. Tonight's topic, and we will dive right into it. We're going to dive into the topic of divorce and the implications of divorce for men and women, and how men and women process it, how they, since men and women are different, we process everything differently because we're just different. So
yes, sir.
If a woman is going through a divorce, what is she experiencing? I know what men experience because I deal with men every single day, and being a man, having gone through it myself, it was life-changing. I will have to tell you. I mean, it was years ago, but it definitely you have to redefine normal. That's what because life as you know it ended logistically. You end up maybe waking up in a different bed, sleeping on a friend's couch, which I did for a while, friends' spare rooms, different things like that. Yeah.
Correct.
As a woman, how is divorce? I know you can't speak for all women,
right?
But knowing what you know, how is divorce? How does a woman experience divorce?
Now, currently, I'm getting a divorce of a same person. We were married for 17 years. And it was a very traditional wife type thing. I stayed home. I had 2 kids with him. I had my 4. But things started to change for me after I lost my grandson and my mom in 2020. When you go through that much grief in your life, either you embrace it or you go crazy. That grief is meant to be felt. The grief of losing somebody in your life, you should feel it. You should feel the grief because you love them.
Yes.
Not only did I lose my grandson, but my mom, she was my support system,
Yes.
But when you say those things like, God only gives you what you can handle, well, she died a month after we buried my grandson.
Yeah.
So basically with this divorce that I'm going through now, I changed the rules. You helped a little, but I changed the rules to the game. I was in how would you call it, high demand religion? Is that what you'd say? How would you call that?
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
Right. There was a lot of requirements for this religion. I don't like to speak ill of it because I love the community of this. I probably didn't embrace the theology of it as much, but I changed the rules to the marriage. And I was willing to work at the marriage without the religion. But unfortunately, that was not it. And changing the rules to the game just changed the whole thing. I feel like now that I'm the sinner and I'm shunned out, and it's making life somewhat difficult for me at this point.
Yeah.
So certain things have happened, and I'm no longer in my home. And I was kind of homeless there for a couple of weeks, surfing on my kids' couches, my grown kids' couches. But you know what? I think at the end of the day, you have to find your inner peace. You have to find your inner peace.
How do you do that?
Oh my gosh. You have to go through it. You have to realize what you're made of. You have to dig deep and figure out who is the authentic person. What are your values? What are your boundaries? And what you are not willing to live with anymore? And I was there. I was no longer willing to be subjected to judgment and shame and guilt. I'm a grown ass woman. You can't tell me what I can and can't do. I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
So I changed the rules, and therefore that's it. He wasn't able to withstand that, I believe.
Yeah.
I can't speak for him, but I know how that theology works. And if you don't follow the rules, then you're out.
Yeah. How does divorce affect your parenting as a woman?
How does it affect my parenting as a woman? Wow. You also introduced me of a thing called the male and the female energy in speaking to you, which
Yeah.
I was stuck in the masculine phase because I had to take care of myself and my girls all the time.
Yes.
This divorce is a lot different than my first one because my first husband was willing to work with me, and this one is not willing to work with that. So I have to watch myself and how I say things, what I say, because there's a little bit of anger that I have
Yeah.
that I don't want to carry with me. I need to let go of that to give my children the example of I've learned I don't want to leave this relationship bitter. I don't. I want
Right.
to learn my lessons and move on, you know, because we all have lessons to learn in this life, even through the people that we love. It's a lesson.
Yeah.
He's taught me a lot.
What are the lessons that we as adults have to learn? I'm not talking about the optional stuff, but what are the hardcore lessons that adults have to learn when they go through divorce? Because there's probably men watching this right now and some women
Okay.
who are going through divorce. How do you start to create a new normal? How do you not let it keep you awake every single night? How do you get a decent night's sleep? You know, when you're married, you have a schedule. Now you have no schedule.
Yeah.
Give us some of the lessons that one has to learn when they're going through a divorce.
Oh my gosh. In my situation, he was in charge of everything. And uh-oh. Sorry, George. I learned to whistle at a very young age. The things that I've had to learn is do things by myself. But I did things by myself. He wasn't part of a lot of things that we did. We had already been separated in different rooms since January. So that was kind of, but you know what though? Being separated even within the house, it was hard at first. It was extremely hard at first because you're used to sleeping with somebody. But we never went to bed together. There was never that night coming together and, hey, how was your evening? It was never anything like that. So when I separated within the house, the vibe that he was carrying, I figured out what was his bad energy and what was my bad energy and what was, you know, what it was. And I figured a lot of it wasn't mine. At least I felt it wasn't, because I was feeling better and he was just avoiding everything. You know, so it started with separating within the home, and going through the divorce now, it's like, oh my gosh. In my situation, I would never recommend a woman. I just trusted him so much that I thought everything would be fine. And I don't have access to a lot of stuff in my home. I was not smart that way. So I guess in my situation, I want to teach my kids that you have to be strong. You have to find your passion. You have to figure out what you want in life before you allow somebody else in it, you know? And here I am, 52, learning that. But it's never too late to learn. It's never too late to teach that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't see this as a negative thing. It's hard, for sure. It's hard. I mean, you have to revamp yourself. But I feel that the loss and the grief that I went through was a very necessary thing that I had to do in order for this chapter, so I can go through this chapter of my life. Yeah, things are crappy, but I know in my heart that if I do the right thing, if my intent is not to harm, everything else will work in my favor. It's all mindset, you know? It's how
Yes.
you choose to look at things. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. How is obviously when you're married, you have, family time where people eat at the dinner table. Meals are a big part of marriage. How
Yeah.
how has your life changed as a result?
Of that. Well, let me
Yeah.
tell you, I love dinners. I love to have people over for dinner. I love cooking and having all my family. So I'm the mom that does Sunday dinners, right? I
Mhm.
still do that. So ever since my kids were little, I've always played a game with them, which is high, low, grateful. What was your high today? What was your low today? And what are you grateful for?
Mm.
And my older kids, when they started leaving the house, my daughter told me, I missed dinner. I wasn't a big soccer mom. To me, to gather my children around and have a good meal was more important than if they learned soccer or basketball. To me, it was them. And so now with my kids, I still do high-low and grateful. We'll be eating in the car, or we'll be at a grocery store eating whatever, and I'll still ask them, give me your high-low and what are you grateful for today? So you just change, you keep the good traditions. Maybe the environment has changed, but I still want that connection with my kids.
Yeah.
So we still play high, low, grateful. What are you grateful for today? Because you always have to find something to be grateful for. Gratitude's big.
It's a cool thing to do. I think I had a friend who, when he kids to bed every night, and he would, as he's talking kids in the bed, one at a time, he would, one kid and the wife would be with the other kids. I think they had 6 kids at the time, and they would kind of take rotating amongst the bedrooms. And the father's job was very similar to what you said, the high, low, and grateful thing. And he would say, "Who are we?" And they would say, "We are," and he would say the last name.
Right.
And it was like a little rah-rah session. And he would say, "What do we do?" And he would say, and the kids would reply, "We do hard things."
Yes.
Like that. And he was teaching them from a young age that hardship is not something to run from. It's something you solve the problems. You don't run away from them. You're not afraid of doing hard things.
You embrace it. There's lessons to be learned. Yeah. I think I was telling you yesterday. Yes, sir.
No, keep going.
I was telling you yesterday, I think there's winners and losers, but I mean, winning and losing is, I think, what I learned. But there's no winning, there's learning. You don't lose, you learn. You know, from everything that happens to us, you learn. And that's the only thing you can do. I mean, you can be negative, but it's not going to get you anything.
Right. There's no losing, there's only learning. That's interesting. I remember that was that's pretty profound. That's pretty profound. Let me ask you this. What role does social media play in a person's life when they are recovering from divorce or going through divorce? I tell people all the time that social media is going to play a role in your life, unless you're living in a cave somewhere. What role does social media play, and how do you utilize it in a positive way when you're going through a divorce, a separation, a hard time?
I don't know. I'm on social media, but I haven't used it for any other things that I enjoy just following. I mean, like dating? No, I don't want any dating apps.
Yeah.
It's pure advice. You don't get on the dating apps, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. Not a huge fan at all.
No, me neither. I'm just kind of older, and I was like, well, if I meet someone, I'll meet them the regular way, if there is such a thing anymore. Is there?
I don't know. It's men don't ask women out anymore. They just don't.
That's horrible.
They're just too chicken, to be honest with you. Men just don't have that, like, hey, I noticed you and I thought I'd come over and say hi, and hey, maybe we can meet for a cup of coffee sometime. To me, that's normal. That's what a normal guy would do. And as I teach men, the word no is not going to kill you. Or if a woman says, sorry, I'm married, or, I'm not interested, or, like whatever, or I have a boyfriend, it's like, okay, all right, whatever, cool, but have a good day. And a lot of guys don't know how to react to rejection. So number one, they're afraid to ask anyone out. Number two, they're afraid of rejection, as if it's going to kill them.
No, I mean, even in marriage, you have a lot of rejection. At least in my marriage, and in my marriage, I had a lot of rejection that I had to overcome. But that's part of the lesson, right? The lesson is, how do you get over that kind of rejection or neglect, to say the least? Just being neglected in a marriage as a female was very hard, very hard. I'd rather be single and love myself than in a marriage and be neglected the way that I was, and gaslit and shamed, and the judgment that I had was just ridiculous. It was just too much. No one's perfect. And I couldn't be the ideal wife that he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. How does parenting continue when when a marriage splits up, a marriage that has children? How do both people help maintain the sanity of the children?
I'm going to go by my first example with my first husband, because I think that's a better co-parenting, because right now we're still kind of working out the kinks with this second divorce that I'm going through. My children now are older. 15 and 14 are my daughter's ages. So they can pick where they want to go, and I don't make them choose sides. If they want to go with their father, they go with their father. If they want to stay with me, because that's what it is. But with my older two, they were much younger. They were 8 and 6 at the time. There was probably some things that he could have done better, but I never told the kids. I never criticized him for what he was doing, and the kids never knew. In my life, one of the things that I say is, you earn your relationships in this world. You earn them, and if people aren't close, it's because you have established that relationship that way. My daughter has a little bit of a difficulty with, what's interesting about divorce? When you divorce someone, you think, well, okay, I'm done with him. But then your children pick up where you left off, and my oldest daughter seems to have the same, I don't want to speak bad about my ex-husband. He's a great guy. I just spoke to him today. But she has that same kind of friction that I had within my relationship with him. So I thought it was kind of odd. Whatever I did not complete or finish or repair, my daughter's dealing with it at the age of 24. And I told my daughter, my oldest one, I said, sweetheart, that's where your dad is. That is his capacity. Love him or hate him, that's your father. Either you learn to love him where he's at, or you're going to be frustrated your whole life. So you choose. But you're going to have to deal with that relationship yourself.
All right. So marriage number one, the children were, would you say, like 8 and 9? Is that what it was?
Yeah, they were 8 and 6 at the time when we got divorced. So they were still like correct. Yeah.
So now the kids are middle teenager years. How is it different going through divorce when the kids are a little bit older, or is it different when the kids are older than when they are under 10?
Well, back then they were still under the jurisdiction of the court, and under parental, this every other weekend, once a week type thing. And we kept up with that. And with this one, the girls are older. One doesn't want to go back to her father, and the other one wants to go back and forth. So I let them do what they want to do, because that's their relationship with them. And
yeah, is that working right now?
Yes, it is. That's working right now. It's working with them, and we have to validate their feelings, what they want to do, and not restrict them for that.
Yeah.
Because it's their parent. It's their parent. Wrong or right or indifferent. Me, I'm their parent. Wrong, right, or indifferent. I'm not perfect. There's things that I'm sure I need work with a lot, but
sure.
Me and my girls, actually, I'm the harder parent. I'm the one that, my Mexican side comes out, and I'll yell a little bit more, get angry and frustrated. But they also know that I will say sorry and make up and say, sorry I did that. And our relationship with them is good. Their mom's a little crazy, but she loves us, and she'll say sorry when she needs to.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you said you said your Mexican side comes out. What is the Mexican, for those that are in the audience, you probably, you heard that. What is a Mexican side? What is that?
We start like going like that, we start moving our hands, and the more facial gestures we get, it looks scary. We know what we're talking about.
Right.
The attitude, the little spiciness, that all comes out. Some people don't like it. You need a strong man to actually handle that one.
Yeah. I it's funny too, because I've dated some Spanish women, and I've always said, and Italian women. Italian women or Spanish women will
eat you alive.
cut your jumped off in the middle of the night, man. If you piss them off, it's like you never go to bed at night with a Latin woman ever. But
a mad one, an angry one.
The flip side is that the Latin women can be very feminine, very ladylike, very
Correct.
affectionate.
Very.
But I was going to say that I haven't met like a lot of ones in the middle. They can go from hardcore Mexican cut your balls off to just the most affectionate, wonderful, supportive women.
So then that would be my American side. Being born in the U.S. with the American culture would be one that stabilizes me just a little bit. I like to say my white side, battles with my Mexican every once in a while, but it's good. My dad was very level-headed, very very kind, very patient. And, my mom, every once in a while she would get an attitude, but she spoke her mind. She spoke her mind.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears for a second. Okay. What does your future have in store for you? I mean,
oh my gosh,
you were a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home wife. Some of that's going to change. Right. You loved being a stay-at-home mom and wife.
I loved it. I got to take care of my grandson, and I loved it. I enjoyed it fully. But
what does the future hold?
Well, you've also kind of helped me with that as well. So I'm a I want to say I'm a personal trainer. I went to personal training school, but I never applied it. I never taught anybody, but I've always utilized it within myself. I do Olympic weightlifting. I like doing yoga. I'll do a TRX. I do kettlebells. I do so many things that are out there just for my own benefits. I like to go mountain biking. All that is very good and keeps me mentally sane. Hot sauna. Oh my gosh, I love this hot sauna. So my mental, I have to be mentally clear, to go through this. One thing that I really am passionate about and I learned was I want to deal with women who have lost loved ones. I'm doing a certification. It's called From Grief to Gratitude. And I know that sounds that you can't do that, but I will tell you, sometimes we have to have hard things in our life happen to allow you to grow. And let me explain. So I don't think I would have ever chosen that complicated grief of one right on top of the other, right? I would have never chose that, but God did. He doesn't care how we learn our lessons. He just needs us to learn our lessons. And the dark night of the soul, Carl Jung, right? The dark night of the soul. There was many days that I had that dark night of the soul where I just cried to God, like, please, if you want me to go through this much grief, allow me to help and see others in their pain and guide them through that. And it's something that comes very naturally to me. It's unfortunate when somebody passes away, like when the funeral happens, everybody's there and they're with you. And then slowly everybody has to go back to life. And you're left alone with your thoughts and all that. That's where I come in. That's where I've come in with people that I know have lost ones, like lost loved ones. When nobody's coming around or knocking on your door anymore, who's going to be there to be in that space with you? And a lot of people, when they hear that somebody has lost somebody tragic, they don't want to call you, because if they call you, you're going to cry. Well, damn it, we're going to cry. We're crying all the time anyways. There was many times that I would talk to people and the tears would be just coming down my face. And I'd say, just look past the tears. I'm fine. And I embraced all of that in order to help others, and to give them hope that the reason that you're going through so much grief is because you loved so much, and that's just part of life. You live and you grieve for the ones that you love. And the funny thing is, we're all going to go through grief in one way or another, always. It's the circle of life,
Yeah. And you have some losses, like just one hit after another, a little streak there. And a lot of people would have cracked up. I mean, you lost your mom, grandchild, a marriage. Those are Those are biggies. That's not a flat tire or having a coffee stain on your shirt.
No,
That's a big deal.
but even in those darkest hours, you have choice. We always have choice. And my thing was, is this going to make me bitter or is this going to make me better? And I always chose, how is this going to make me better? My chihuahua, sorry. It's part of my Hispanic thing. Hey, do you mind? Do you mind? No,
I don't.
Sorry. Oh, George. Hey, be quiet. Sorry, guys. This is part of my Spanish side. Chihuahuas, be quiet. But yeah, so you learn to deal with that grief in a way that's going to make you better. George, sorry. Let me throw her up. Pause.
Of course, the Mexican woman has a chihuahua.
Here,
of course.
Here, take her. Yes, the Mexican woman has a chihuahua. Yes, in the wrong place. Okay, yeah, so we have to learn, instead of making us bitter, because it's so easy to go the way of anger and frustration, because we should be angry with the things that happen. But how can it make us better and not live in that ugliness? And that's what I chose every day. How will this make me better?
Give me an example. Give me an example of how you can make something better, like a difficult time that you've been through, going through this most recent difficulty. Give me an example of how you can make things better without revealing too much personal information. Go ahead.
Well, we're all here to learn lessons, and I think our childhood traumas will follow us wherever we go. Our parents aren't perfect, and they're, to a degree, they're going to jack us up, and I was no different. There was things that I had to deal with. Like, a lot of what was in my marriage was neglect, and as a kid, there was a lot of that as well. And so I understood that being in this relationship, I had to learn how to accept rejection and be okay with it, and to know it's not me. He's not really rejecting me. There was something within him that was rejecting me, and that's okay. But you just always have to learn how to manage those in a way that you learn from it. I said, I don't want to walk away from this angry. I want to walk away like, okay, like with my grandson, that grief taught me how to be more compassionate and to be in that space of that loss. Will this divorce? I'm sure I'm going to use it in a positive way, because that's how I choose to do it.
Yeah.
Gonna suck for a while, but you just got to push through and take those lessons and those losses and continue forward.
So there are things that are out of your control. Obviously,
Correct.
When you are a domestic engineer, a stay-at-home wife, a stay-at-home mother, you
domestic goddess. It was domestic.
You're
goddess.
A domestic goddess, yes. And you're in. You could. Women many times can turn a house into a home. Now you no longer do that. Like, for instance, as the eternal bachelor that I have been, like in the past when I've dated, I'm very functional in my decorating, very functional in just the way that I do things around the house. And a woman will, tie back curtains, will show up with a couple pillows for the couch. I'm like, what are these for? And I have had women say to me in the past, this place needs a woman's touch. So now you're in a situation where you are no longer the domestic goddess. And what will you do now? How do you stay feminine when you're put into a role where femininity is not your number one goal? I mean, you got to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do things the hard way. And you're over 50. So starting over at 30 is different than starting over after 50.
50, I know, it's a pain in the ass. Well, I'll tell you what I did at home, so back in February, you get angry while you're going through all of this. And one day I took everything off the walls. everything that made that home me, I cleared all the walls. And my daughter was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "You know what? It was all a lie. It was just all a lie." Because I had all these really nice things about our family. He came home to an empty house, you know, and I hurt my daughter. I really hurt my daughter in doing so. So I apologized to her profusely. I apologized to her dad. I said, "You know what? I'm going to repair this. We're going to repair this." And I said, "Let's make some collages. Like, we spent an evening. Let's make some collages of all of our favorite pictures. And as we repair our family, we'll start putting them back on the wall." They never came up.
Yeah.
They never came up. And I was kind of sad that we were unable to repair that. But I didn't want me to be in that house anymore. It wasn't my home anymore. I was locked in a room when he would get home because I just didn't want to interact. So I pulled myself away. So now with my girls, when they're with me, it's kind of hard, but mom's there. It doesn't matter if you're in a hole in the wall. As long as mom's there for your kids, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wherever mom is at, love's there. And my girls feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I will surrender this fact that women are more nurturing of children than men are. I really do believe that. I think, you know, if a kid falls and scrapes their knee, they come running to mom most of the time. I would say more than dad, obviously. I think because mom is the nurturer. Mom is the one who rocks kids to sleep and is kind of like the dresses up the wound. Not that men can't do it, but I think children of every age, doesn't matter how old the child, even if it's adult children, there's something about a mom's touch versus a dad's touch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they need it. Children need the yin and the yang. It's important for them to have that male and feminine energy in their life. You know, that's important. You know, I saw it within my own family with my dad, the dynamics. My dad was very much the leader, even though he wasn't there all the time because he was working. My mom would always say, "Hey, we have a roof over our head and a nice meal because your dad's out there working for us." You know what? To me, that was beautiful that even though he wasn't there, she still made him part of our daily life. You know, when he came home.
Oh, I like that.
I know. When he came home, it was interesting. Like, my dad didn't take my mom out to dinner very much. My mom asked him one time, "Why don't we ever go out to dinner?" He goes, "Oh, honey, I'm always eating out." You know, he's on the road all the time. My mom never asked him again. She made sure that when my dad was home, she made him a nice meal and that his family was around him because that's what he wanted. You know, it's that sacrifice that you do in a marriage because you love them. And he would take her out for anniversaries and stuff like that. But my mom always made sure that he had something from home. You know, she made that home for us, for all of us.
Yeah, definitely. I have, I remember like in college, the women's dorm rooms are always so feminine. Like, whereas guys, we had bookshelves made from milk crates and cinder blocks, and women would do window treatments and have pillows and when we had I went to a college where the men and women were in different dorms. We did not have co-ed dorms, and each semester there was like a open dorm night where the women were allowed in, and you know, and we made made punch and put out cookies and crackers and finger food and stuff like that, like guy stuff, just like bags of potato chips. Whenever the women had like an open dorm night, like it was like a buffet. It was beautiful. It was like, you know, like napkins that were folded, and instead of just like a roll of paper towels and stuff. And it was, you know, so it was definitely different.
Well, for me, I think that's important like I said, I'm very kind of traditional that way. It was important that when he got home or when my spouse comes, that he had a warm meal to eat. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a blue collar worker or white collar worker, there's still stresses at work that are there. So to come home to your family and a nice meal and a nice table, I always had fresh flowers, you know, in my kitchen because that just makes the house nicer, you know, brings a touch in there.
Yeah.
Women are important.
So, all right. So now, now you don't have a meal to cook for someone when they come home. What do you miss the most about being married?
I don't miss anything about being married to that person, really, honestly. Dang, that's sad.
Okay.
But you know what? I loved, women are givers, you know, the men, well, no, the men are the givers and the women are the receivers, right? In this role. I really enjoyed having someone to, how I would say that, because it was pretty dysfunctional. You know, I don't know what I would miss. I honestly don't. And not in this one. I mean, I know what I want. I know what I want. I would want somebody that appreciates that about women, you know, that traditional kind of wife thing. But I mean, I would like to have someone who is a good masculine energy, you know, that respects that. Because once a man is in his proper male energy, and the woman could be self-assured, she's able to nurture, she's able to give. But if she's in her masculine energy, she's always trying to do stuff for herself. So I was always doing things for myself, you know?
Yeah.
At least the last 5 years I did, you know, after the baby died.
Yeah. I have said to men that if you force your wife into a masculine role, put her in a position where she has to make all the decisions and she has to run the household and it's her authority in the household, then she will end up resenting you. If a woman has to play the man's role in the relationship, there's going to be incredible resentment because a woman will. This almost sounds sexist, but it's not. Those that know me know that I'm not sexist.
Right.
But we have to allow, as men, we have to let women be feminine and protect them from being in a masculine role because they will resent us. They will resent us if we put them in that position. So we as men have to be strong, but we role in the household. That's super important.
So you were the one that really clarified that to me. But I went to 2 counselors, marriage counselors, and they both told us, you are in the masculine and you are in the feminine. But I was like, what does that mean? You know, until you kind of explained that, I started delving into what that looks like, kind of reading about it. I was like, oh, you know, I think if they know anything about it, you live in the shadows of the feminine, and the masculine is the dysfunctional part of it, you know, being jealous, being demanding, being, all those things are the shadows. You know, all the positive is being in the proper state of those two.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does. It does. And well, you know, in our friendship between you and I haven't always taken sides with you, even though I'm your friend, and that's what friends do. They take sides with their friends.
No.
There have been times where I have, I'm not wagging my finger at you, but I am telling you the truth about things. And I am a firm believer that if you really care about people, you tell them the truth. That's just
absolutely.
And even if it's uncomfortable truth.
Right.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
How have I done that with you? How have I, because I'm not a yes man. I don't always agree with things that.
That's okay.
What are your thoughts about that?
So we let everybody know. So I started following you in January because my son was going through a really bad breakup too. And all these things started coming up. You know, women are the ones that are usually like trashing the guy. You know, unfortunately, we get angry and we start trashing the guy. So that's when I started following you. And then I think I made a comment and I was like, when we first started, hey, I'm going through a really crappy situation right now. And then that's how we started talking. And as you asked me questions, you were on it, and you would say things like, you would just say things that I was like, wow, that's interesting. So that's why I kind of began to trust you, because you are coaching men on how to do this correctly. You know, so I think I'm the first girl you're interviewing in this situation, right? In a divorce situation. I appreciate your honesty because I haven't had it. I haven't had it. If somebody would have given me direction in our marriage and say, hey, you know what? I don't like this. Okay, well, okay. You can't generalize the thing like you criticize me. Well, that's a huge blanket statement. You criticize me. What am I criticizing you? Tell me so that I can make an effort and correct myself. And that direction was never given to me. Like it should have been like, I don't like when you do this or this or this. Okay, note it. But that was never an opportunity that was given to me. It was just kind of like, this is what you do. You were specific, like you can't do this and you can't do that. Why am I going to get offended with somebody who's actually trying to help me? That's kind of work against me. So I always appreciate good feedback.
Yeah.
That's how we learn. That's how we learn in this world. And I think everybody comes into your life for a reason. Everybody does.
Yeah.
We all play a role in everybody's life. We're all connected in some way.
Yeah.
You're in Pennsylvania and I'm in Colorado, but here we are.
Right.
you know?
Right.
So everybody's connected, and technology makes it so much easier now to help people.
Yeah. Is it weird? Well, as soon as people get divorced, then lawyers are hired, courts, and then people start making decisions for you, and that you're not used to having other adults making decisions for you. Has that been difficult? I mean, and like authoritative, like decisions that are backed up by the law, that's got to be hard. I know it was difficult for me.
I actually wanted to get a mediator. I mean, you were the one that gave me the best advice. You said, get a mediator, sit down, hash out what you want to do. But unfortunately, he was unable to do that and sent me a text message about how he was going to send me the divorce papers, because I don't know, it was just a mess. So he texted me about getting a divorce. That's where I was. I don't like contention. You know, I don't like somebody telling me what I could do. Every time I get an email from an attorney, it just makes my stomach I just want to throw up, because this could have been handled so much differently. His attorney keeps on saying amicable. I don't think those dudes know what amicable is. You know, it's just stupid. Once you get attorneys in, this draws out everything even more. You got to pay them, and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. There's something that could have been just mediated and a lot cheaper. Now we're spending thousands on stupidity and anger.
You know, I've said that for years, and I experienced it myself. The minute we hire attorneys, it just goes to another level of war, another level of battle, and of course every attorney always tells their clients, keep your mouth shut, let me do the talking. And for someone like me who wants to talk, who wants to communicate, for someone like you, you want to talk, you want to get things out. And our lawyers are telling us, keep your mouth shut. I tell men all the time, keep your mouth shut, keep your hands in your pockets. I say that all the time. I tell you that all the time.
Correct. Yes. You know, it just feels bad being attacked. If you feel like your character's being attacked, you know, in these situations, when those are never your intent. You know, it was never my intent to get to this point. My intent was like, how do we get out of this in a way that our children won't have to see the shit show that they're seeing right now, because it is.
Yes.
You know, how much can you protect a 15-year-old from the shit show? You can't. They're watching. They see me. You know, that's why I do what I do as far as working out and getting myself mentally straight, because when my kids walk in the door, I need to be there for them. You know, even if we're just cuddling on a couch, you know, for the evening, for a few hours, it's the quality of the time that I spend with them, you know?
Yeah.
So I try to do that just to keep them sane.
All right. So you mentioned going to the gym, working out, and this kind of stuff. What role? Now, I know you like powerlifting and this kind of stuff, and you're throwing the iron around, which is not, I don't see a lot. I see a lot of women just doing what I call like vanity working out. Like at the gym I go to, I see women spending a whole hour on their butt. Like, what? like they don't work anything but their butt. And I'm like, God, get me the hell out of here. God.
Right.
But you're going and you're deadlifting, you're like clean and jerk, you're doing a snatch, you're like, you know, you're doing military press, you're doing like these compound exercises. How has that contributed to your life? And like, why that rather than just like all the vanity stuff?
Oh my gosh. So I've always enjoyed feeling good. Mountain biking, cycling, stuff like that. I did it a lot. So I'll tell you something. I don't know how long do we have on this interview? I don't even know how long. I didn't know I had this kind of PTSD going on with me. When my grandson died, if you don't mind me telling the story, my grandson died. I received a phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning, with the horrible news that he had passed away. That phone call changed my life. So I didn't know that it was being stored in my body. So when we separated in the rooms, I tried to connect. I felt this anxiety coming up about 4 or 5 in the morning, and I snuck into his room a couple of times, and he got angry with me because I wanted that male comfort of something's happening to me at this hour. I wake up with anxiety, and I wanted him to hold me when we were sleeping together. Well, I would just kind of curl up to him, but now I was in a different room. But he denied that. He said that I was being a bully and that I didn't need to do that. So as far as I have a cycling bike downstairs. So I would go downstairs and I just started moving my legs to remove the anxiety, just moving my legs. Next thing I know, it's an hour later, 20 miles into this ride. I'm like, Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive is in the radio.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Get your butt to the gym, right? Okay. So I go to the gym and I haven't picked up a bar in 5 years, doing Olympic weightlifting. And so I walked into to the gym and I was doing these snatches, but I didn't have the proper bar, my female bar. And this guy was watching me do some snatches one time and he goes, "You got too much power, not enough weight." I'm like, "I know." And all they have is male bars. So he goes, "Do you have a female bar?" I was like, "Yeah, I have it at home." And he goes, "Well," I go, "You don't expect me to walk into the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning with a bar?" He goes, "Well, how bad do you want to turn it?" And I'm like, my stubbornness got to me. I was like, "I want to turn it pretty dang hard." He's like, "Okay." So the next morning, walked in with my 15-kilo bar, and everybody's kind of looking at me. I was like, I was determined to get back into that sport because it's such a hard sport because you got to commit. You got to commit to the movement pattern and you got to commit to the weight. So it's a very intricate move to bring it from the top all the way to the, for the bottom of the top. It takes a lot of mind, a lot of thought. And I find that that's when I'm in my flow the most. And I'm in Colorado Springs where we have a lot of people who've trained with top athletes. So I go to my friend's gym and she's an athlete as well. I picked up another guy that was in the 2018 CrossFit and said, "Hey, give me some tips." So I like going out with people who are the professionals in this sport and tell me what you got. So keeping myself mentally sane through working out and having a passion like that has been very helpful because nobody has to tell me to go to the gym. I just go, even when I feel like crap, I'll even lay my bar there on the ground and just start picking it up and doing something. Any movement is good for you, any movement. And once you're in there, you feel you're better, and you walk out a different person. So mentally strong, you have to figure out how to be mentally strong and physically strong too. Where'd you go, George?
You have to lift. You have to.
Yeah. I enjoy lifting, and then every other day I do a little HIIT program, that helps as well. So I do a HIIT with combination of strength training and yoga. That's what I do to keep myself mentally going. I don't need to lose any more weight though. It's not a weight thing for me. I don't need to lose any more weight.
You are getting kind of thin though. I will.
I know.
You're thinning out a little bit. Your body fat's pretty low right now.
I know. I'm trying to eat the Oreos, sir, but I can only eat so many Oreos.
Right. Well, I think everybody goes through biological changes when you go through stress and grief. I think that's just, right. I think the physical condition that you were in has helped you kind of weather this storm.
Yeah, it's helping.
Otherwise it could cause you sick.
Yeah.
So what are your plans? Let's say, and I know things change from week to week when you're going through things like this. Tentatively, what does the rest of 2024 look like for you?
Well, I want to finish this cert and start getting myself out there, start getting some clientele as far as helping them through their own grief. I think once I put myself out there, the rest will just kind of flow. Because when you find your passion, I think the most important thing is to find your passion. Because once you find your passion, the rest is just, just timelines of things you got to do. Do what you like. And like, I don't want to go, I am bilingual as well. I speak English and Spanish, so that's a huge help, to know both languages fluently. So I can help both sides, English and Spanish. Yeah. And especially even in the Mexican culture, it's just, we're so passionate when we lose our people. It's more in the American culture, they're just like, it's over, get back to work. And it's so hard to grieve. Mexican or the Latin culture, man, they grieve hard. We love hard. So I can help that demographic as well, go through. I don't think anybody would think that you can find gratitude in your grief. I mean, that is a strange concept, but you can be grateful for the lessons that you've learned. I mean, I'll never be grateful to lose those two people in my life, but I understand the purpose of it. And that's what we have to learn, is what was the purpose of it. And guess what? I do have I have another grandson. He's 3 now, and his name is Chance, and for second chance. And what I like to say about him is like, oh, I savor that child. Oh, in Spanish, I would say lo saboreo, because every moment with him, I understand I won't always have him, or he won't always have me. So being around him, it is a second chance for us to love another little creature as cute as him, So God is great in that way. He's blessed us in that way.
All right, so we'll wrap this up. I will ask you to give a word of hope to my audience who's going through difficult times. I'm putting you on the spot here, but there's somebody who just started going through this stuff this week or last week, and you are miles ahead of them. Give them
Not really.
some words of hope. Go for it.
Oh my gosh. You know what? The only thing I could say is that these are your lessons to be learned from. And don't take them mildly. The only way that you're going to learn is going through it. You can't avoid it. You have to go through the loss of your marriage, the loss of that normal life. You have to feel it. Once you feel that, then you're able to, okay, all right, what does this feel like? And then go to the next step. Because if we avoid them, what are you learning? You can't learn anything by avoiding it. I get emails, and every once I get an email, I want to throw up, but I still have to confront the hard stuff, and we all do. And it's, like I said, it's choice. Do you want this to make you bitter, or do you want it to make you better? And I've always chose better. How is this going to make me better?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, it was great. It was great talking to you, introducing you to my audience.
Thank you.
And we'll have you on again, and continue blessed. I will continue to talk, and I will continue to be to bring you cold truth in a compassionate, friendly way.
Absolutely, I've enjoyed that. You're a very kind man, very very smart man. You know what you're talking about. A little bit of what you're talking about, right?
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. Awesome.
All right, Miriam. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. And we'll see. I don't have a lot of guests on like that, and I thought I would show you the other side and how gentlemen, putting your woman, your wife, in a position where she has to play the masculine role, where she has to be the decisive one, where she has to make all the decisions in the family, only will create resentment in that relationship, in that marriage. And the kids are watching, of course, and the kids have expectations. because, the kids think adults have all the answers. And when kids see that adults don't have the answers, how horrible is that for the kids? Then they have to figure things out. And then, of course, they end up carrying their frustration into their relationships later on in their life, when they get into relationships and when they get married. Or there's people that will say that, I know people that have said, I'm never going to get married because I don't want to have a relationship like my parents. So they avoid marriage and they avoid relationships because the only role models they ever had were their parents, who struggled and argued and that type of thing. I will say that she communicated a lot of the things that I teach as far as how to handle frustration and anger. She's in the gym. I've said for years now, if you're frustrated, get out and walk. If you're angry, get to the gym and lift. You can walk off frustration, but you have to lift away anger. You have to actually expend energy and do strength training in order to get rid of the anger. I love what she said about you have to decide every single day if that situation is going to make you bitter or make you better. And that's a decision that you make, because if you don't take the initiative and deal with the frustration and the anger, you will just end up being bitter and angry. And there's people who are bitter and angry, not just for a few years, but for decades, for many, many decades. And I think there's just a handful of things that men and women both share when it comes to divorce and the end of a marriage, the end of a relationship. I think that's we do suffer in similar ways, and we do suffer in different ways because men and women are different. We process everything differently, but there are some things that we do have in common. I am pro-man. That's the first thing. So as I have spoken with her, as I have worked with her, I would represent the husband's point of view. And I would literally be very difficult, very harsh on her in a way that no one else was. When every female friend is like, you go, girl, be that strong, independent woman, and stick it to him. I represented the husband's point of view. And whether she liked it or not, but that's what I do for a living, is that I represent men and I work with men's causes. And I think it helped her understand her husband better as they were going through these kinds of things. It's difficult for anyone to start over again, no matter what the age, but I think the older you are, the harder it is to start over. And, there's a woman, she's, over 50 years old. How does a woman over 50 start over again? The same way a man over 50 starts over again. He has to decide every day to be better, not bitter. And believe me, we fight as men. We fight bitterness and cynicism, I think, more than women do. Because men, I believe, do have a tendency to be more idealistic. I think we're more idealistic than women are. That's just my observation over the years. And I don't want to say that we process divorce harder, but there's several funerals that you need to have. Not only are you grieving the loss of the actual relationship itself, the person, you don't have them in your bed anymore. You don't reach over in the middle of the night. They're no longer there. You are also having a funeral and processing the death of memories. You are also processing and experiencing the death of future dreams. It's all coming to a stop. It's all ending. It's like someone just put it in park and just ripped up the emergency brake and just made everything come to a screeching halt. Now you have to stop, as I like to say, stop, breathe, and think. And that's what everyone has to do, whether male or female. Now, the implications are different. Women many times get the upper hand in courts. That's just the way it is. I think that's changing. I think it's changing. I think the courts are starting to see men's rights a little bit more. It didn't happen when I went through it over 2 decades ago. But I think it's just starting. And women are surprised that the courts aren't just rolling out the red carpet to them anymore. And that is a victory. That is a victory for fathers, I think, and for men. But here's the thing. There doesn't have to be a winner and a loser. And for decades, men have always gotten the shitty end of the stick. They've always lost just because they are a man. So you walk in as a man, they never tell a woman, you can see your kids twice a month. It's always the man that's got to do that. She's been humbled. Not like a lot of women today. This woman has been humbled. I wanted to present something to you that was just different than what I usually do. I'm not the guy that says, women belong in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant and in the kitchen. Like, where's my dinner, woman? I'm not that kind of guy. There are guys like that. I'm just not one of them. But I think women are better in a nurturing role. Like, if you ever worked in a company where there's female bosses, man, they can be bitchy. Am I right? Am I right about that? They can be so bitchy. And I'm not afraid to say that. I know it's not politically correct to say that, but you know me, I'm not a politically correct kind of guy. Women are more nurturing. Men are more leadership oriented. They're not nurturing. Men are more like, suck it up, dude. Suck it up. My best friend, when I went through a divorce, at the time, my best friend said to me, I go, so what advice do you have for me? He literally said, strap yourself in. It's going to be a rough ride. That was his advice. There was no nurturing. There was nothing like that. It was get together, drink until we drank away our problems. And that was it. That was it. But I found that women were a little more nurturing when it came to that. The women I knew were basically 2 types. There was the you go girl power kind of woman. Like, there was kind of women who said, well, you must have done something wrong. Those were the kind of women. Half the women I knew were like, well, yo, George, you must have done something wrong. And then the other half were more nurturing and they weren't so quick to point the finger. Thank you so much. Have a great night, and I will see you soon. Thanks a lot.